I believe that the concept of karma and reincarnation are the most important concepts that we can know and understand to discover the meaning of life, to answer imponderable questions, to understand our reason for being, and to truly understand what Jesus Christ and the apostles, the prophets and the patriarchs taught and what they lived, what is recorded in the scriptures of the Judeo-Christian tradition. All of it is there. Jesus did teach reincarnation, but I'm not going to begin my speaking to you this evening with Jesus' teaching, but I'm going to take it in a sequence that starts from the beginning and goes to the very present hour. I'd like to tell you about my own journey on the path to begin with, because God revealed the concept of reincarnation to me at a very real early age. How many here have had an experience where you have remembered a past life somehow, some way? Raise your hands high. There's quite a few people here this evening who have had that experience. How many of you have never had a sense of ever remembering a past life? Quite a few of you also. Before we're through, I think some of you who think you haven't remembered a past life will realize that you have. And that is in the sense of being very familiar with a certain situation or location, or with a certain person or group of people, having an instantaneous dislike or even a sense of danger around some people, and a sense of having known someone else a long time, finding it very easy to get to know someone. We have little hints, but as a matter of fact, God in His mercy draws the shade. It's a curtain of forgetfulness when we enter the birth canal. It is a mercy to us because we have an assignment for this life. We shouldn't spend our days wishing we were who we used to be, or longing for the good old days that might have been better. We need to be locked into the here and now and recognize what an opportunity it is to be in embodiment, to have the blessing of being in a place of liberty and opportunity as we do, to work out the karma of the past. I just want to tell you that when I was about 4 years old and playing in a little play area that was fenced in a beautiful garden that was created by my parents, I was playing in my sandbox. It was a beautiful day. The clouds were moving overhead, and this was in New Jersey, in Red Bank, where I was born. And all of a sudden, as though someone turned a dial, I was a child playing in the sand along the Nile River. And I experienced the beauty of that scene as a child. It was as real as where I had just been in my own little play yard. After some time, I don't know how much time passed, it was as though the dial turned again, and I was back at home, back in that little play yard. I wasn't dizzy, I wasn't dazed, I hadn't passed out, I was just continuing to play in the sand. So I jumped up and I ran to find my mother. I found her cooking at the kitchen stove. And I said, "Mother," and then I recounted what had happened to me, and I said, "What happened?" And she sat me down, and she sat and looked at me across the table, and she said, "You have remembered a past life." Instead of ridiculing or denying what I experienced, she explained to me that the soul does not necessarily have the ability to accomplish her mission, her reason for being in a single lifetime, and that the soul is eternal. And so if we need another lifetime and another to fulfill our mission, God gives us a new mommy and daddy, and we come out of a new mommy's tummy, but it's the same soul, it's the same person. And our body is like a coat we wear. It wears out before we're through with what we have to do. She explained to me in the simplest childlike terms that I could understand. I had already observed children who were born maimed or blind, some people gifted, some people wealthy. She said she could never understand an unjust God in terms of one life, that the justice of God must be the continuity of being. My heart pondered God and Jesus as I had been praying to Jesus since a small child. I saw the naturalness of it, and I realized that there must be some reason why God had showed me this past life. And I didn't find out the reason till I was well into adulthood and realized that that life was key to the work that I had to do in this life. No doubt at that moment there was transferred to me some substance of myself, perhaps some heavy karma that I had to balance, a mission I had not fulfilled in that moment of that glimpse into the distant past. Since that time, God has revealed to me other incarnations where I have learned lessons of momentums of good that I have built, which I could build upon, of mistakes I have made, some serious mistakes, serious karma that I had to balance in this life. That, in fact, is why we are all here. You have wonderful momentums of good karma that you bring with you, and you also have negative karma that must be balanced with individuals, persons no doubt in your family today, people you know, or people you will meet. Life is a challenge and an opportunity. A long time ago, reincarnation and karma was removed from church doctrine, and Christendom has suffered ever since. Since this is such a key thread in the understanding of our soul's journey, I ask you to stay with me this evening because I have much to say on the subject. I don't want to leave a stone unturned in bringing to you this understanding so that you can do your own research, meditate, and consider what you come to in your own heart regarding this subject. You should not believe something because I say it, but because the Lord Jesus Christ is speaking to you in your own heart and confirming that truth. The belief in reincarnation is ancient and widespread. In 1886, the Reverend W.R. Alger wrote a critical history of the doctrine of a future life. It became the standard Christian work on the subject of immortality. In his book, Alger wrote, "No other doctrine has exerted so extensive, controlling, and permanent an influence upon mankind as that of metempsychosis," and that's another word for reincarnation. The notion that when the soul leaves the body, it is born anew in another body. Its rank, character, circumstance, and experience in each successive existence depending on its qualities, deeds, and attainments in preceding lives. Before the advent of Christianity, reincarnation was a part of the spiritual beliefs of many of the peoples of Europe, including the early Teutonic tribes, the Finns, Icelanders, Lapps, Norwegians, Swedes, Danes, Germans, early Saxons, and the Celts of Ireland, Scotland, England, Brittany, Gaul, France, and Wales. The Welsh have even claimed that it was the Celts who originally carried the belief in reincarnation to India. Author Ignatius Donnelly suggests that the Celts' belief in reincarnation was derived from the inhabitants of the lost continent of Atlantis, who had migrated to Ireland. In ancient Greece, both Pythagoras and Plato believed in reincarnation. In the 6th century BC, Pythagoras taught that the soul had many incarnations, which were the opportunities for the soul to purify and perfect herself. The human soul is immortal, he said, for it resembles the heavenly stars and, like them, is involved in perpetual motion. According to his biographer, Pythagoras claimed that he had been embodied in the past as Aethalpides and Euphorbus, and that he had died at the hands of Menelaus at Troy. In the 4th and 5th centuries BC, Plato taught that the soul is immortal and that its circumstances in its current life depend on its disposition formed in a previous life. He tells the story of a group of souls about to embody who are advised by a prophet. Virtue owns no master. He who honors her shall have more of her, and he who slights her less. The responsibility lies with the chooser. Heaven is guiltless. According to some scholars, statements made by the 1st century Jewish historian Josephus indicate that the Pharisees and Essenes believed in reincarnation. Others believe these are references to the resurrection of the dead in new bodies. Some tribes of American Indians, as well as numerous tribes in Central and South America, have believed in reincarnation. Reincarnation was also taught by students of the Kabbalah, a system of Jewish esoteric mysticism that arose in the 13th century. Reincarnation is still a part of the religious beliefs of the Jewish Hasidic movement, founded in the 18th century. Today, the belief in reincarnation also exists among over 100 tribes in Africa, as well as among Eskimo and Central Australian tribes and many peoples of the Pacific, including Hawaiians, Tahitians, Melanesians, and Okinawans. The most elaborately developed concepts of reincarnation are found today in the religious traditions of India, especially Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism. In these religions, reincarnation is linked with the law of karma. Karma is a Sanskrit word meaning act, action, word, or deed. In Hinduism, karma originally meant sacred actions or moral deeds. It was later associated with the concept of reincarnation in another body or form of life. Some in the Eastern religious traditions do believe that a human can re-embody as an animal and vice versa, although many do not believe it is necessarily a common occurrence. Some say that a person who has a very low state of consciousness and has done cruel deeds may re-embody as an animal. Others do not see the animal state as a punishment, but as a necessary experience in one's spiritual evolution. Maybe Pythagoras subscribed to this theory. One of his contemporaries once told the following story. They say that while walking past a dog that was being beaten, Pythagoras took pity and said, "Stop, strike no more. I recognize the voice. It is the soul of my friend." You see, every dog and dogma has his day. According to the law of karma, as it is taught in the East, your thoughts, words, and deeds in past lives have determined the conditions of your present life. And your thoughts, words, and deeds in this life will determine your destiny in future lives. It's a bit difficult to accept that. People like to blame their parents or circumstances or heredity or what happened to them when they were children or the opportunities they missed. Everything but ourselves. I happen to think that Christianity perpetuates that sense of wanting someone else to carry the burden of our karma, in other words, the burden of our sin. And so if some calamity happens to us, we think, well, something has caused it other than myself. But if we get into the driver's seat of our lives and take responsibility for our actions, then we begin to meditate upon the justice of the universe. I myself have certainly not had an easy life. I recall requesting before I took embodiment to have a major portion of my karma descend at birth, and it did. And I realize that many of the things that have happened to me have come about by my own doings. And of course, it is true that all things come about because of one's doings. I have understood this law in my heart before it was ever taught to me. In my sense, then, of God and the universe, I have only gratitude for the lessons that I've learned from my karma. And my motto is that there is no injustice anywhere in the universe. That is an amazing statement to accept, because there seem to be so many injustices everywhere around us in things that befall us. But if we really understood the continuity of being and all that we have said and done in many past ages, we would see that those words and deeds return to us as our teachers. And if they are not so nice, then not so nice things happen to us, so that we can self-correct and see how it feels to have been on the receiving end of what we sent forth in this or a previous lifetime. I think it is the coming of age of a soul and of a man and of a woman and of a child to reach that point of maturity to say, whatever comes to me, I will receive it with rejoicing, knowing that as I balance and resolve this situation, I can move forward into my communion with God and ultimately to that day when I can attain permanent reunion with my Father, Mother.
The preceding lecture was given by Elizabeth Clare Prophet, world-renowned author and spiritual teacher. The Summit Lighthouse is an international spiritual organization dedicated to universal enlightenment. Founded in 1958, the Summit Lighthouse has been a beacon of truth to thousands worldwide and a leader in New Thought spirituality. The preceding program has been brought to you by the Summit Lighthouse. For more information, call 1-800-245-5445 or visit our website at www.tsl.org. Outside the USA, call 406-848-9500 or write to the Summit Lighthouse, 63 Summit Way, Gardner, Montana, 59030, USA.